Hello, I'm Ed Rabyd, otherwise known as the Rabyd Atheist, former pastor turned atheist, now a compassionate anti-theist. Welcome to my channel. Feel free to like or dislike the video as you see fit, so feel free to hit those buttons. Feel free to comment below, and I would appreciate it if you would subscribe to the channel and hit your notification bell for more content as it is released. You're also free to share my content as much as you like. The purpose of this channel is educational in regards to atheist and deconversion issues, as well as Bible and theology related to those issues. As such, that we seek to create a community mostly for the deconverted atheists. Christians and other people are welcome here, but, keep it civil. Today is a Friday video, and I actually have to do 2 weeks worth of comments, but I want to start with an announcement about that. The one thing I have learned in addressing comments over the years with not just this, but also with my blogs and things, is I really can't always address every comment. And when I first started this channel, I didn't have many subscribers, so the comments were pretty small. But as I've climbed up, I've noticed that the research level that I'm having to do to deal with every comment is getting a little bit heavy sometimes. And it's not because I don't have a lot of free time still. It's just there's a lot of other things I want to do. And this channel is not, my all-consuming passion right now. I mean, if I was independently wealthy, I could probably dedicate all my time to it to making it a great channel and making money. But I'm not going to do that because I've got other irons in the fire, and that's just the way it is. So what I'm going to do probably from now on is I'm going to address comments. I'm still going to have a Friday video and address comments, but I'm going to try to get the general tenor of the comments and centralize the main issues of the comments, and try to go that way rather than dealing with all the comments. Because when you deal with a discussion, for instance, there have been a couple of discussions that have happened in the last 2 weeks since I did a Friday video, where I could address so many issues in all those comments that it would take forever. And I don't want the Friday videos to be any more long than any of the rest of them. And they have had a tendency to get a little longer. Rabid Ramblings tends to ramble on, and I need to get that down too. Most people are content to, if it's 20 minutes or less, they'll sit and watch it. But otherwise, they just don't really. I think once you get past that 20, 25-minute threshold, people kind of like, yeah, this is too long, didn't read. Or in this case, too long, didn't watch. TLDW. Okay. But so that's kind of the issue. So in that spirit, I'm going to kind of start addressing comments more in a more generalized way. And so that's, kind of the way I'm going. And this week, there is one long comment by Freewheeler Reason I do want to read through and address. But there's two major things that happen, well, three. Everybody who wished me back happy holidays for my happy holidays post, thanks. It's good to be part of a community again, that we're looking out for each other a little bit. I had some comments about, the lockdowns and science. And I think most of us here agree that science is probably a better way to go than religion in dealing with issues. And I think, some of that is, religion and conspiracy theorists seem to tend to go hand in hand. And so, yeah, you're kind of right. I agree. Let's just keep smiling, stay safe. You got to address all the issues. Things go on and on about that. So thanks. I also want to give a shout out, a second issue I want to talk about with this comment. I want to give a shout out to my eldest child, Edward Jr., and EC for a very spirited but civil conversation in regard to the presidency and the Electoral College and that sort of thing. And I think the way they handled I didn't have to intervene in the conversation. I'll just put it that way. And I always like it when that happens, because it ended up being a good conversation about it. And I think the most valid point that came out of that is, sometimes you misread a comment, but also that from a political point of view, the Republicans have a lot to work on. And I think the biggest issue for them, and this is something that's probably not going to sit well with some of them, you got to figure out what you're going to do with the religious right, because I think holding on to them and trying to keep them in your platform is killing you. I think if you became more libertarian, you would actually see your party grow. You might get the Libertarian Party out of it. And in order to do that, you got to drop the damn religious social issues. And I think, my eldest's point is a very valid one. Out of the 7 elections, the last 7 presidential elections, the Republican candidate has only won the popular vote once. And that was Bush, I think, Bush 43 in his second term won the popular vote. He didn't win the first one. He lost. Going back, we got to look at Bill Clinton for 2 elections. One, although his first term, he didn't win 50% his first term. So he didn't really win the popular vote that year either. I think he had 43% because Ross Perot was in there. But and then he won the popular vote the second time. Bush basically won the Electoral College to win the presidency the first term. He only won the popular vote his second term. So when you look at Bush is kind of a very moderate conservative when you really look at his policies. He was demonized by the left constantly, but when you really look at his policy, he was always trying to find a moderate way to get things done. And so, yeah, I think that's why he went. Well, then Obama won twice. Going back, you don't see, 2 Electoral College victories for the Republicans and 1 popular vote victory. Only 1 popular vote. I think the problem that Republicans are having is an identity crisis where they don't seem to realize what they believe and what they think is not very popular with the general public of the United States, and it's becoming less and less popular. If they hold their current platform, I think they will continue to lose. The funny thing is they won it everywhere else, and it's because Democrats aren't liked. I think Democrats dealing, with how they deal with the free interchange of ideas. I think they're very anti-free speech with the political correctness. I think all of that has made them they don't like them. I think the lockdowns and how they've been handled by the Democrat politicians that have done them has also been very negative, because it's like they're so myopically focused on COVID-19, they're not really addressing all the other problems. The problem I think with a lot of Democrats is they come off as very shrill, and they come off as very, I think there's an elitism where the left, the more left-leaning and more extreme left-leaning, seem to have their nose in the air about how they're better than everybody else and they believe the right things, and conservatives have nothing good to say. And I think that's a bad attitude. I think the polarized partisan politics is really killing both parties right now, because the Republicans won everything else, and I think they're going to win both seats in Georgia. That's my prediction. They haven't lost a seat in Georgia since 1996. The Republicans are pouring money into the commercial campaign. So they're on your TV. And if you're in Georgia and you live in Georgia and you turn on your local channel, I'm sure there's goddamn wall-to-wall television ads. And I was reading a report earlier that the Democrats have plain given up trying to do commercial ads, and they've gone to ground. They've gone door to door, knocking. And because and both sides are throwing money into Georgia. I mean, if you're a political canvasser, you're going to make money right now if you live in Georgia. So that's kind of the way it is. There was another comment when I talked about the virus and the believers from Freebird. Freebird of Reason is probably my biggest commenter, and I want to give a shout out to him as the year ends. Thank you. Yeah, the lockdowns, the mask. I don't have a problem wearing the mask. I have a problem with the government pointing a gun at my head saying I must wear a mask. Explain to me why I need to do it. Explain, and in general, because people are good, most of them will comply. If you start pointing guns at people, then you're starting to act like religion. Religion tries to force people through guilt. The problem with political power is it tries to force people with a gun. So it's not inherently moral. Yeah, people are going to make mistakes and learn as they go, and I don't have a problem with that whatsoever. I think my problem with it is, did the government in the United States have the authority to do what they do? And the answer to that is, in the United States, probably not. The United States really gives a lot, theoretically, a lot more power is local, which is actually a good thing, because local problems should be handled by local government, and state problems should be handled by state government. And if it's truly a national problem, that's what the national government does. But the national government tries to poke its fingers into a bunch of stuff, and they have no business to do that. And it's like, you're just not the best people to do the job here. I also want to deal with another one with Free Bit of Reason, which was just like half a day ago, when I was talking about the continuing discussion of the benefits of religion in my latest video. Of course, when this video drops, there'll be another one, but in between. But and I want to read this comment. He says, "I've just had to speak to my brother and sister-in-law about mental abuse. This was finally necessary due to the fact that mental abuse to my mother. When I heard that my 80-year-old mother talking about burning in hell, I feel so much anger towards the mental abuser. Now, the mental abuse from religion comes from two people I love, and the same people that first put fear into me. My story has ended well. I am now free from this mind shackle, but my mother is being worked on. So I went to speak to them both. I find myself with so much strength no longer that person that didn't know scripture or how to answer. Then after some time listening to my rebuttals, wanting to stop, but I would not expect this for as long as I could, I kept speaking. I really wanted to help them to see the evil in this man-made book. We went through so much. I had the scriptures used against me like pearls to swine, and finally my own brother said, Pete, I shake the dust off my feet from you. Now I hope he will think twice before poisoning our mother's mind with fear. I said I loved him, but he couldn't say this back to her. I wonder if he can love an atheist. Apparently, I was never saved. The old line is very common. What else can they say? Anyway, I have found out the world is 6,000 years old and I'm going to burn. What a terrible message, and how it has destroyed families. Not just the Christian belief system, but lots of others. I had never given mine, but unfortunately the Bible has been used to make an intelligent brother feel justified in saying immoral things to my mothers and to myself. Thanks for your time. Always good to watch and listen. Keep smiling. Everyone will love each other as well. We are just brief candles in the dark." This is why I do this channel. This is the kind of comment is why I do this channel. Forget the genocide that religion has done. Forget all the social ills. Forget the educational bullshit that they try to pull off. But the straight up fucking disowning people that are part of your own goddamn family over make-believe shit is the worst, most heinous thing that religion does. The constant mental abuse, the constant bullshit, to the point where people think that are members of your family, you won't speak to them because they don't believe in the same imaginary friend that you do. This is garbage, and it's abusive, it's bad, and it doesn't come from the secularist, it comes from religion. And I'm sorry, I've been reading, my son has been leading me to a guy named Pinker, and I like Pinker for a lot of things. But I take issue with Pinker about religion because he tries to come off as not so bad. And he kind of puts it, one of the critics that I read, I can't remember where I found it. I was reading a bunch of stuff, but I remember I should have probably marked it down. But he makes the observation: we don't believe in alchemy or astrology anymore as scientific disciplines. No astronomer in his right mind would use astrology anymore. Okay. We discard it as a bad thing that was wrong. With alchemy, no self-respecting chemist or physicist would use alchemy anymore. It's been discarded and rejected. It's nice to talk about, but we certainly don't let it have an effect on science. So why the hell will we let religion also a discarded and, in my opinion, useless notion have an effect on society for the same reasons. Would an astronomer gain anything from astrology? Would a chemist gain anything from alchemy? No. So why would anybody dealing with a better society, social science, political science, evolutionary psychology, whatever, find any value in religion? And I think this is the problem that I have with Pinker. I have no problem with him as an evolutionary psychologist. I've listened to a lot of his talks and stuff, but my problem with Pinker is when he moves from the realm of, in my analysis as an evolutionary psychologist, we are good people for the most part that do good things and make society better. It's when he branches out, and this is the reason, 6 reasons why, I think is what he has. That's where I question whether he knows what he's doing. And the reason I say that is because now he's moving from evolutionary psychology, his expertise, into other areas like economics, political science, sociology, social psychology. He's starting to go into areas where he, and because of that, he kind of puts religion in there as one of the reasons that we're getting better. No, I don't think so. If you pull the theological bullshit, alchemical, astrology-like stuff out of religion, there's not much left. Okay. If anything at all, everything else can be equated to something else. So don't get me wrong. I think Pinker has a great observation that we're good people for the most part that back each other up. What fucking interferes with that? I would say religion interferes with that more than it helps. And that's why, comments like this from Freebird of Reason remind me of that. We literally have a situation here where a man is telling his mother that if she doesn't start believing as he does, she's going to hell. And she is a believer enough to be so afraid that he might be right that she's literally experiencing a major amount of anxiety. This is fucking mental abuse. I don't care what you say. Okay, it is. And this comes from religion. There is no secularist would do this to somebody. Not about imaginary shit. I mean, I might sit there and talk to you about, COVID or global warming or something like that, and we can have a good, pull out the actual scientific data and have a discussion. But you can't pull out scientific data with religion any more than you can pull out scientific data with astrology and alchemy when you're talking to a chemist or an astronomer. Because both of those people, the astronomer and the chemist, will look at you and say, you're freaking nuts. It doesn't work that way. The universe doesn't work that way. And religion does the same thing with a lot of other things like psychology, social sciences, and political science. It doesn't really work that way. And when you dwell in the realm of fantasy, that's when you have a problem. And this is why I think religion is poison and it's toxic and it poisons everything. Because on a day-to-day basis, I see on my Facebook page, I had to block some guy because he's just going on and on about how LGBTQ people are going to hell and, things like that. How is that going to do good to society? And a whole bunch of people are liking and amening him. I'm like, you got to be shitting me. Okay. And I have to ask myself a goddamn question at this point. Do I really want to be as a political scientist, I like having friends from all across the spectrum, but it's the religious ones that I'm starting to have problems with. Do I start talking about this? Because I'm going to lose some friends, because I know how religious people are. When you start disagreeing with them, they'll unfriend you. And so, if I start talking, maybe that's what will happen. Final issue I want to talk about is something my son brought up about moderation, being a moderate viewpoint. And we had a little discussion, and to sum it up, he's like, there's an 80% chance, that the answer isn't 1 or 10, right or left. And I pointed out, well, there's also an 80% chance that it's not 5 or 6. It's not a moderate view either. The reason why I've rejected the moderate, right-left paradigm, the liberal conservative paradigm, the capitalist, socialist, communist paradigms, is when you want to look at truth, you have to pull yourself. The one thing I learned in my political science degree is that you can, to a limited degree, use the scientific method on social issues. You just have to be ready. The biggest problem that people in social issues have is they have opinions. In economics, they talk about normative opinion, normative statements, and positive statements. A normative statement is a statement that is opinion-based, basically. A positive statement is something that is factually based that you can verify. The problem with the idea that if we take, that the middle is somehow better than the right or the extreme right or the left. If we take the right-left opinions and come up with some sort of conglomerate, except this is opinion, this over here is opinion, it doesn't change the fact that your moderate opinion is still opinion. It doesn't magically go from opinion to fact just because you put them together or you kind of come up with some sort of thing. The real thing with truth, the real thing with it is you have to suspend the whole right, left, middle, whatever. If you're going to find the truth, you have to study what is. And then you have to, get somewhere where you can say, this is what I want. This is what the truth is. You have to get past what I want to be true. And you have to say, what is the facts? What is true? And you can get facts in social sciences too. As a graduate of a school, I have a BS degree. Okay, it's a Bachelor in Science because we studied the science of how to look at social situations. And it's not as easy as looking at it's called soft sciences for a reason, because we're not looking at data that is so hard. It's not like dropping a rock from a building and figuring out with what velocity it hits, where you can predict that every single time. You just weigh the rock, drop it off the building. How far did it fall? Okay, this is the force that it hits with. You can predict that stuff. With social sciences, it's not that predictable. And so the problem with saying, okay, this person has an opinion over here, this opinion over here, and if I kind of take what basis do you say parts of the opinion are moderate? You're picking and choosing. You're using your own bias to pick and choose. In order to really look at things clearly and try to find the truth about something, you have to get rid of your biases just as much. And the scientific method that does that for the hard sciences can be used in a limited capacity to do that with your other ones. That's why we still study data, in the social sciences, and we look at trends and but trying to figure out what the reality is and what opinion is, that's the problem. The first thing you have to do is kind of look at the statements that people are making and pull away the opinion. What can be verified as true? It's like the Facebook fact checkers, only I wouldn't go to them. I think if you want fact checking, you're going to have to go to, people that look at this more as a data driven thing. You got to get rid of the idea that somehow if I combine the right opinion and the left opinion, I'm going to get a true fact moderate position. No. You're just going to get an opinion moderate position where you picked and choose like a smorgasbord which parts of each opinion you think are true. You still have a big opinion, and it could be just as wrong. You have to start looking at every choice. If it is a choice of 1 through 10 options, every choice has an equal chance of being true. Truth doesn't just lie in the middle because it's in the middle. A 2 can be true, a 9 can be true, a 7 can be true, a 6 can be true. 80% of the time it's not 5 or 6, 80% of the time it's not 1 or 10. Okay, that's true of every 2 numbers that you put up with. 80% of the time it's not 7 or 8. And it's like, I could do that all day long. My point is, if you want to find out which number is the truth, you have to analyze the data to see where the data leans and forget the whole right, left, I'm going to put them both together kind of thing. That's my viewpoint. You don't have to share it. I'm just saying that's why I have a problem with that viewpoint, because I think it's biased in the fact that you're going to classify things as right or left. And then it's bias to decide which parts of the red end up being moderate. That's what I'm saying. So that's kind of just how I want to end this. As for now, Happy New Year, everybody. I know that hopefully everybody had a safe holiday last night. I appreciate all of you following this channel. Hopefully 2021 will be a better year as we go forward. And hopefully during 2021, I can convince you to be a rabid atheist like myself. In the meantime, this is Rabyd, also known as the Rabid Atheist, signing off and wishing you a good day.